George Washington. The very name evokes images of a young nation fighting for its freedom. He is forever etched in our national memory as the father of his country. Washington's story is not just one man's journey, it is the story of America's birth. He was more than just a leader in war, he was a visionary. Washington led a fledgling nation through some of the most tumultuous times in history. His leadership during the Revolutionary War, the drafting of the Constitution, and his 2 terms as president set the stage for the nation we know today. Born in 1732, George Washington entered a world on the cusp of change. The American colonies, while still under British rule, were brimming with a growing sense of independence. Washington's own family embodied this spirit, having carved out a life in the rugged wilderness of Virginia. Growing up on the frontier instilled in him a deep appreciation for the land and its people. He learned the importance of self-reliance, resilience, and courage. These qualities, essential for survival in the untamed wilderness, would later define his leadership on a much larger stage. At the age of 20, Washington's life took a decisive turn. He embarked on a military career, accepting a commission as a district adjutant in the Virginia militia. This marked the beginning of a lifelong commitment to service, one that would see him rise through the ranks and eventually lead a nation to war. The French and Indian War provided Washington his first taste of battle. As a young officer, he demonstrated remarkable bravery and tactical acumen. His experiences during this conflict provided invaluable lessons in leadership, strategy, and the brutal realities of war, lessons that would prove crucial in the years to come. George Washington's story begins in colonial Virginia on a plantation known as Pope's Creek. Born on February 22, 1732, he entered a world far removed from bustling cities. Virginia was a land of vast wilderness, sprawling plantations, and growing self-reliance. Amidst rolling hills and fertile fields, the seeds of leadership were sown. Washington's family held a respected position in colonial society. His father, Augustine, was a successful planter and businessman, while his mother, Mary, instilled values of hard work and discipline. These principles guided Washington's actions throughout his life. The Virginia frontier shaped Washington into a resourceful and resilient young man. Washington possessed a keen mind and a natural aptitude for mathematics and surveying. His family encouraged him to pursue a career that offered financial security and social standing. At 16, he embarked on a surveying expedition into the Shenandoah Valley. The wilderness held both beauty and danger. Washington encountered Native American tribes and navigated treacherous terrain. He honed his surveying skills, developing a meticulous eye for detail. These expeditions exposed him to the tensions between the British and French. Washington was increasingly drawn to military service. In 1751, he was appointed as a district adjutant in the Virginia militia. This marked the beginning of his formal military career, leading to the pinnacle of military leadership. Trial by fire, the French and Indian War. The French and Indian War engulfed North America in the mid-18th century, providing Washington with his first taste of battle. In 1753, young militia officer Washington was dispatched on a perilous mission to the Ohio Valley. Tasked with delivering a message to the French, Washington's journey was fraught with danger. He navigated dense forests, treacherous rivers, and encountered hostile Native American tribes. The following year, Washington led a small force and clashed with the French at Fort Necessity. Though outnumbered, Washington and his men fought bravely but were forced to surrender. Despite the defeat, Washington's courage and tactical acumen earned him both praise and criticism. These lessons would shape his leadership in the American Revolution. Shaping a leader. The French and Indian War raged on, and Washington, now a seasoned officer, played a pivotal role. He served under British General Braddock in the failed Braddock Expedition of 1755. Despite the failure, Washington's bravery during the retreat earned him recognition. He rallied troops, organized defenses, and aided the wounded. Washington then commanded the Virginia Regiment, defending the frontier. Facing constant challenges, he earned his men's respect through courage and commitment. By 1763, Washington had become a respected military leader, ready for the coming struggle for independence. The gathering storm. By the 1770s, a shadow had fallen over the American colonies. Discontent with British rule had transformed into a roar of defiance. Taxation without representation ignited a firestorm of protest. From Boston to Virginia, a spirit of resistance was brewing. George Washington watched these developments with growing concern. He understood the high stakes involved in challenging the British Empire, yet he recognized the justice of the colonists' grievances. Washington joined his fellow Virginians in supporting colonial rights. Elected to the First Continental Congress, he advocated for a firm response. The Congress established the Continental Association, calling for a boycott and militias. The hope for reconciliation was fading fast. In April 1775, conflict erupted into open warfare. The shot heard round the world had been fired, and the colonies were in a desperate struggle for survival. In the wake of Lexington and Concord, the Second Continental Congress convened in Philadelphia, faced with the task of organizing a united resistance. Selecting a commander for the Continental Army was crucial. George Washington stood out. His military experience and reputation for integrity made him the natural choice. Washington accepted with a heavy heart, aware of the monumental task ahead. He set off for Massachusetts, carrying the hopes of a nation yearning to be free. The early years of the Revolutionary War were a baptism by fire for General Washington and the Continental Army. Outnumbered and outgunned, the Americans faced endless setbacks. Yet, Washington's unwavering leadership kept the rebellion alive. In 1776, Washington's daring Delaware crossing led to a crucial victory at Trenton. This victory reinvigorated the American cause. The following winter brought new hardships at Valley Forge. Soldiers endured unimaginable suffering, but Washington never wavered. He rallied his troops and held the army together. Valley Forge forged an unbreakable bond among the soldiers. As the war dragged on, Washington continued to employ a strategy of attrition, avoiding major confrontations with the British while wearing down their forces and resources. He recognized that a prolonged conflict would play to the Americans' advantage, giving them time to train, gather supplies, and build alliances with European powers eager to see Britain's power diminish. The year 1778 marked a turning point in the war. France, recognizing the potential of an independent America, formally allied itself with the fledgling nation, providing much-needed financial and military support. The arrival of French troops and naval power shifted the balance of forces, giving Washington and the Continental Army the strategic advantage they had long sought. In the South, the war raged on with brutal intensity. British forces, hoping to exploit loyalist sentiment and divide the colonies, scored early victories, but faced fierce resistance from American militia and Continental Army units. Washington, recognizing the need to strike a decisive blow, dispatched General Nathanael Greene to the Carolinas, where his brilliant campaign of maneuver and attrition gradually wore down the British forces. In 1771, the Long War finally reached its climax. With the support of French troops and the French fleet, Washington trapped British General Cornwallis and his army at Yorktown, Virginia. The ensuing siege, a masterpiece of military coordination and firepower, forced Cornwallis to surrender on October 19, 1781, effectively ending major combat operations in the Revolutionary War. The news of the victory at Yorktown reverberated throughout the colonies and across the Atlantic. The American colonies had defied the odds, defeating one of the most powerful empires in the world and securing their independence. George Washington, the reluctant commander who had led the Continental Army through years of hardship and triumph, was hailed as a national hero. Yet, for Washington, the victory at Yorktown was not the end of his service. He knew that the true test of the American experiment had just begun. The fledgling nation, forged in the crucible of war, now faced the daunting task of governing itself, of establishing a system of government that would ensure liberty and justice for all. And once again, the nation would look to George Washington for leadership. As the Revolutionary War ended, the need for a stable government became clear. The Articles of Confederation were inadequate. In 1787, delegates from 12 states gathered in Philadelphia. George Washington was unanimously chosen to preside. His presence lent gravity and legitimacy. Washington's leadership style provided stability. His presence discouraged factionalism and encouraged compromise. The convention faced challenges, including balancing state interests and addressing slavery. Washington's guidance fostered constructive dialogue. His commitment to republicanism laid the groundwork for the Constitution. The Constitution emerged from these deliberations. Washington's role was pivotal. The Constitution was a product of intense debate and compromise. Framers like Madison, Hamilton, and Franklin brought unique perspectives. Washington's vision of a strong yet balanced government guided their efforts. He believed in a robust federal government to maintain order and justice. His support for checks and balances shaped the final document. Washington's influence extended beyond the convention. His reputation provided a model for leadership. He championed a government accountable to the people. This vision led to a bicameral legislature, independent judiciary, and strong executive. Ratification debates were intense. Washington's support swayed public opinion. His endorsement reassured many about the new government's principles. The Constitution was ratified. Washington's influence was instrumental. With the Constitution ratified, the question of leadership arose. George Washington was the clear choice. In 1789, he was unanimously elected as the first president. Washington approached the presidency with responsibility. His actions would set precedents for future generations. His inauguration marked a new era in American history. As president, Washington faced numerous challenges. He established the executive branch and navigated foreign relations. Washington relied on his judgment and trusted advisors. His presidency was marked by impartiality and national unity. He created a diverse cabinet and sought consensus. His leadership during the Whiskey Rebellion exemplified his balanced approach. Washington's decision to step down after 2 terms set a vital precedent. In 1789, the new nation looked to Washington with hope. He had to establish a functioning government. Washington approached the presidency with duty and determination. He aimed to create a strong yet balanced executive branch. One of his first acts was assembling a cabinet. Jefferson, Hamilton, and Knox were key appointees. They shared Washington's commitment to the nation's success. Washington entrusted Hamilton with organizing the nation's finances. Hamilton proposed bold measures like a national bank. These policies strengthened the federal government. Washington's leadership laid the foundation for future growth. The world was marked by opportunity and peril. The French Revolution posed a diplomatic challenge. Washington adopted a policy of neutrality. He understood the need to build the nation's strength. Domestically, Washington faced challenges like the Whiskey Rebellion. He upheld federal authority and prevented lawlessness. Washington personally led a militia to quell the rebellion. His decisive action demonstrated federal strength. The Whiskey Rebellion set an important precedent. As his first term ended, Washington faced a decision. He chose to retire from public life. His farewell address in 1796 reflected his wisdom. Washington warned against political factions and foreign entanglements. He emphasized national unity and the sanctity of the Constitution. His address urged future generations to protect their freedoms. Washington's legacy was one of wisdom and foresight. In 1796, Washington chose to return to private life. This act solidified his place as a champion of Republican ideals. The nation met his decision with admiration and trepidation. Washington yearned for the tranquility of Mount Vernon. He had sacrificed much for his country. Now he sought solace in retirement. His departure was marked by celebration and sorrow. Crowds lined the streets to bid farewell. Tributes were delivered and tears were shed. Washington accepted these tributes with humility. His heart was filled with nostalgia and hope. Washington's return to private life was a significant moment. His legacy continued to inspire the nation. Before retiring, Washington imparted a final message. His farewell address in 1796 was a profound reflection. Washington offered advice and warnings. He cautioned against political factions and foreign entanglements. He emphasized the importance of religion and morality. Washington stressed the sanctity of the Constitution. His address was a plea for unity and shared purpose. It reminded citizens of the importance of civic virtue. Washington's words continue to resonate today. They serve as a reminder of democracy's fragility. His address emphasized the power of principles. Washington's farewell address remains a cornerstone of American thought. December 14th, 1799 dawned cold over Mount Vernon. George Washington lay gravely ill. News of his declining health spread quickly. Visitors gathered at Mount Vernon. They awaited news from Washington's bedside. At 10:20 that evening, Washington passed away. The nation mourned the loss of their leader. Tributes poured in from across the country. Newspapers published eulogies. Church bells tolled and flags flew at half-mast. Citizens donned black armbands. Washington's passing marked the end of an era. His legacy continued to inspire the nation. In the wake of Washington's death, a sense of loss swept over the nation. He had been a symbol of unity and strength. Americans felt gratitude for his leadership. Washington's example inspired future generations. His commitment to duty and integrity was a beacon. Washington's legacy is etched into American society. His image graces currency as a reminder of his role. His true legacy lies in the hearts of the American people. Washington is remembered as a symbol of American ideals. His legacy endures in the pursuit of a more perfect union.